Success begins with identifying a problem to solve. So Jesus Christ knew, if I'm going to be successful, I must succeed in something. So he went looking for a problem. He found one. He found 3 young men at that time sitting on the beach with an empty boat. That was a problem. They were professionals. They didn't know what to do with their problem. What did he do? He offered to solve their problems. What did he use? His gift. What was his gift? The gift of dominion. And he told them to go back out, wrong location, wrong depth, and net on the wrong side, and he solved their problem. Now, what happened after that? Do you remember what happened after that? It says, Peter said to him, "What manner of man are you?" In other words, you just separated yourself from normal men. That's what that means. We thought you was a normal person. Success begins with separating yourselves from the pack. What manner of person are you? Why? Because you solved a problem that we couldn't solve. You used the gift we didn't know you had. Immediately, he became celebrated. He became a celebrity. No wonder why they were willing to drop their nets, shut down their fishing company, and join him. Because he became what? Successful in an area of life. Therefore, he became influential. Influence is the capacity to cause other people to listen to you or to follow you. What is influence? Oh dear. I guess I'm talking to myself. Talk to myself, talk to the hand. Influence is the capacity to cause other people to listen to you or to follow you. That's influence. Suddenly they decided to listen to him. Then they went even to the point where they said, "We will follow you." Influence is when other people change their priorities for yours.
Positive thinking won't let you do anything, but it will let you do everything. Better than negative thinking will. Now, I know that for most busy people, getting regular exercise is about as easy as climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. But it can be done. You've just got to have a plan. You've got to set some goals, because it's just as difficult to reach a destination you don't have as it is to come back from a place you've never been. Unless you have definite, precise, clearly defined goals, you will not realize the maximum potential that lies within you. And this applies to every aspect of your life, not just to exercise. Now, here's some steps you can take towards that end. First, identify your goals, and next, set a deadline for reaching them. Make a list of obstacles you have to overcome to reach your goals. Identify the people who can help you overcome those obstacles, and make a list of skills you have and those you need to achieve your goals. And then develop a plan. Now, a word about goals themselves. There are 7 different kinds of goals. There are physical, financial, spiritual, career, family, mental, and social. And these 7 types of goals share several characteristics. First, to be effective, they must effect change. We must have some big goals, because thinking big creates the excitement necessary for accomplishment. Second, you must have some long-range goals so that short-range frustrations don't stop you in your tracks. Occasionally, circumstances do arise that are beyond your control, and oftentimes obstacles such as market changes, sickness, accidents, or family problems can be pretty intimidating. But by keeping your eye on the prize, you will find that the excitement of winning that prize will carry you through the tough times. Third, if you don't have daily objectives, you qualify as a dreamer and not as a doer. Dreamers are fine. provided they build foundations under their dreams by working daily towards them. Often, the difference between the great and the near great is the awareness that making it big means working every day towards our long-range objectives. And 4, your goals must be specific, not vague or general. If you want a new home, for example, know every detail of that house. How many square feet, number of rooms and bathrooms, the shape of the living room, the type and kind of lot, its location. If it's a car you're dreaming about, picture the make, the model, the color, and every option you want it to have. You see, if you want to reach your goal, you must see it, be able to smell, to touch, and to taste it. Know how it looks and what it feels like in your own mind. Before you can reach that goal, you see, it is true that whether you think you can or think you can't, you are generally right.
Many people lose things that matter to them, things that mean something to them. Recently, I spoke very highly about my father while he was in this world. But now my father is gone. And what hurt me the most is that I didn't have the chance to say goodbye. I didn't have the chance to travel to bury my father because of the crisis that we are facing in our society, in this world right now. But yet I'm here, yet I'm still alive, and yet I still got work to do in this world. Does it hurt? Am I grieving? Do I feel a little bit of despair? Absolutely. Absolutely, I feel that pain. Absolutely, I understand what it means to hurt. Absolutely, I feel like there's nothing else left in me. Because when I lost my father, a piece of me went with him. Now, that's not something to just be telling you. I'm telling you the reality of how I feel as a man, as a son, as a father, as a human being. No matter how strong, no matter how tough you think you are, you're gonna hurt. You're gonna feel that sense of emptiness. You're gonna feel that sense of loss. But the best thing about losing is to grow, is to feel it, is to understand it, is to fight through it. It's nothing on earth can stop your purpose if you just hold on to it. So I live not just for me, not just for my family, not just for the people that look to me, but I do it to honor my parents. It feels not the best of me right now because I don't have that mother to talk to. I don't have that father to talk to or to give advice. It's just me now. The people that mattered in my life, the people that gave me life are no longer in this world, but they exist in my heart. They give me a reason that they left a legacy for me to carry on. This doesn't mean that it's the end of me. It means that I have work to do. It means that I have to continue to push and go harder and go stronger. It means that I have to stay focused. It means that I have to stay faithful. Doesn't matter how strong or how weak you are, you must climb that mountain. Doesn't matter how many times you fall, you must climb that mountain. You may slip a few times, but you must climb that mountain. If you're looking over your shoulder and worrying about who's behind you, how can you focus on what's going on at the top of the mountain? So you slip, so you fall. But are you breathing? Can you feel your heart beating? Are you alive? Then keep climbing. Don't be worrying about what you can't control, but you can control your emotions.
Every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. I truly love you all. That's why I do what I do. No other reason in the world. So that's what you all should do, folks. That is a real key to surviving the mess that we're in. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Cultivate a genuine love for life and being. Be genuinely grateful and thankful to the infinite creator every day for bringing you into being. I mean, come on, folks, look around you. It's a pretty incredible world we have here. And life is just amazing, don't you think? I mean, especially when one considers the alternative. I mean, this is a lot better than that. Be thankful for the world. Be thankful for this world. I mean, we've survived this far, haven't we? And haven't you? You've survived this far. You may not have everything you want, but really you've got everything you need in order to complete that which you came here to do. Give thanks for that.
You've got to go into this battle with love in your heart. But I think meditation is important. Meditation is good for inner strength. It's good for knowing who and what you are, discovering that, figuring out how to work with your own emotions and how to work with your own energies and how to work with your own powers. Because we're all incredibly powerful, folks. We all have these incredible energetic connections if we can just be aware of them. But I still believe in the human spirit. I still believe in the human race. I still believe that there's a peaceful way through this, because I believe that once people remember who and what they are, they'll just see how easy it would be to change things. So that's always been the focus. Don't allow yourself to believe anything. If you're going to believe in anything, believe in your own sovereignty, believe in your own freedom, believe in your own power to make change, your own power to have the idea that could change the world. No matter what your status in society, you know, no matter whether you're rich or poor or physically able or not, you could still have the idea that could change the world, because everything that we see here is all based on ideas. It's just an idea. But anyway, folks, the journey goes on. It's an interesting journey, and it seems to have a great many twists and turns, and who knows where it's going to go next. One hell of a ride, that's for sure.
And when we break out of these belief systems, which are often related to insecurity, because it's like you want to belong to a group because you feel more secure, or you want to have a belief system because, oh no, I found out what I believe now and I can leave that alone and get on with my life and all that stuff. But when the people used to come around my house as a kid and used to say to me, Mother, what religion are you? She thought, we're Christian. No, we're not. No, we weren't. But it was something that, oh yeah, I'll be a Christian because then I've got to be something. Well, we haven't. We can be all that is, has been, and ever will be. We don't have to be a Christian. We don't have to be a Muslim. We don't have to be a Jew. We don't have to be a Hindu or any of the bloody prisons of the mind. We can be all that is. And it's a thing that I say sometimes. If people can tell me what they believe, if they can give a name to what they believe, they're in a prison. Because we just are. Everything just is. It's not just, I think, therefore I am, computer level, or I compute, therefore I am. It's I am, therefore I am. That's the real level of being. I am all that is, has been, and ever will be. I do not need to put a name to what I believe, because I just am. I am the force with no name and all names. I am all things and I'm no things. I'm everything and nothing. I'm everywhere and nowhere. Because I am all that is, therefore I'm all possibility. And when we do that, these neurons, pathways and networks stop firing off in relation to the rigid belief system and filtering reality for us. So now we can open to all possibility instead of being stuck with one or two possibilities called belief systems, which hold us in servitude and limitation for entire lives in these vibrational boxes that therefore come from these belief systems. We can be honest with ourselves as we break out of these belief systems. Crucial. Cognitive dissonance is not a bad thing. It's the way it's used that puts us in a state of enslavement because of it. If we are honest with ourselves, people that have belief systems of various kinds, who say, when I come into contact with experience or information that challenges my belief system, I'm not going to hold on till my knuckles turn white. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to look at this, and if it makes sense, I'm going to change the way I see the world. Cognitive dissonance then is a positive thing, and we move on. You know, people get embarrassed because they believe something, and then suddenly realize that it's actually a nonsense. But they shouldn't get embarrassed, because we live in a world where from cradle to grave, we are pummeled with manipulation to believe things and take on belief systems that allow the few to control the many. Instead of being embarrassed when we suss it, we should be celebrating that we've sussed it, because we're no longer in servitude. And we can break out of these schizophrenias where, according to Doublethink and Orwell, we take on these contradictory views like war is peace and all the rest of it. Again, honesty, and say, hold on, that doesn't make sense. Because go back to consciousness. Does consciousness do war? No, consciousness does peace in its pure state. Therefore, anything that is being justified for war and slaughter and pain and suffering is by definition supportable. So instead of saying, well, we have a war and I'm going to explain it away because I'm fighting for peace, rubbish. War, end of story, no, unjustifiable, and therefore I'm not going to justify it under any means. Then the schizophrenias start to fall. We're not justifying the unjustifiable anymore. We're saying it's not justified, no longer has my support. And now the schizophrenia is breaking because we're no longer supporting two contradictory things. We're taking a point of view of consciousness, peace, love, caring, empathy, compassion, and anything that is contradictory to that, we're not interested in. The schizophrenia starts to break up. And all these things are breaking down it's like a web that we're caught in. The strands pulled off as we start to break down the contradictions of being honest with ourselves in terms of our belief system. And we move from consciousness or to consciousness from mind.
Now, if you have a negative thought or an unhappy thought or a self-depreciating thought, you turn on a different set of circuits and a different combination, a different sequence and a different pattern that produces a different level of mind. And the brain then begins to make a different batch of chemicals that signals the body for you to begin to feel exactly the way you were just thinking, negative or unhappy or unworthy. So the moment you begin to feel the way you think, because the brain is in constant communication with your body, you begin to think the way you feel, which makes more chemicals for you to feel the way you think, and then you think the way you feel, and then you feel the way you think, and then you think the way you feel. And some people do this for 20 or 30 or 40 years. Now, the redundancy of that cycle over time creates what I call a state of being. And a state of being is when your mind and body are working together, or your thoughts and feelings are aligned to a concept. So thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And as people get caught in this cycle of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking, over time, they condition their body to memorize that emotion as well as the conscious mind. And whenever the body knows as well as the mind, that's called a habit. A habit is when your body is the mind. Now, 95% of who you are by the time you're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, set of emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, attitudes that run just like a computer program. So 5% of your conscious mind begins to work against 95% of what you've memorized. So the person wants to think positively, but they're feeling negatively. They want to create their dream board, and put up their future life, but they feel unworthy. That's mind and body in opposition.
Reason why I genuinely believe, as we all sit here today together, that because of this device that many of you are holding, we are living in the most opportunistic time ever to put yourself into a place of happiness. And happiness comes in all forms. And I think a lot of business and entrepreneurship, but I definitely want to articulate today a framework that speaks to how do you get happy because of how much opportunity there actually is. Let me take a step back. I was born in the Soviet Union Ukrainian. In 1975, a little ways ago, I came to America when I was 3 years old. It was a very challenging upbringing in the first couple of years. 6 family members in a studio apartment. We struggled. We had to learn a new language. We started from the bottom, no question. As you can imagine, my parents are very much my heroes. My mom stayed home and raised kids. My dad worked every day, many hours a day. First as a stock boy, putting bottles on the shelf in a liquor store in Jersey for only $2 an hour. So very humble beginnings where the Vaynerchuks come from. But entrepreneurship was definitely foundational in happiness that we were able to create over that period of time. My dad worked quite a bit. Eventually, he became the manager of that liquor store. And that's when we moved to New Jersey, outside of New York City. And that's where I mainly grew up. And that is where my entrepreneurial career began. I always wanted to work. It came natural to me. It's what I wanted to do. When the summer days happened and all the kids wanted to play, I wanted to go wash people's cars. I wanted to sell lemonade. I wanted to do business. It was always in me. It's what made me happy. When I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I convinced all my friends to stand behind booths from the lemonade that I made, and I would make signs and try to think about how to market. Long before the internet, I cared about one core thing, which was the attention of the person that I was trying to reach and how I could get them excited to buy my thing. Eventually, after lemonade, I started my first kind of real business. In America, in the 80s, baseball cards, sports cards that people could trade became very big, and I rode that wave. I got very involved. I love sports, and I love even more buying packs of cards, getting good cards, and reselling them. And that's really where I learned much. I mean, to think that sitting here today and having so many people clap for you on the complete other side of the world, and so much of that was what I learned in the malls and conventions in New Jersey selling these cards. It's remarkable. I'm very humbled. I very much appreciate the warm welcome when I came out here. And I'm setting up this framework because I think, as I was getting ready for this conference and I looked at so much of the chatter about the conference and obviously phenomenal Instagram account of our hosts, and kind of just looked, the thing that I've become fascinated about and the thing that I want to talk about today is really 2 things. Literally right before I came out here with the organizers, they're like, talk about the how. And I asked them, I said, the how here or the how here? What's interesting to me now that I've been a little older and had my career, and I'll go back to it in a minute, frame it up, but as I'm segueing, what's interesting to me is every wonderful person that I'm looking at right now, for them to get what they want, happiness, forget about money for a minute, happiness, for them to get what they want, it actually is only one of 2 things, here or here. And here represents doing the work, knowing what to do. My whole career, as I got more known on the internet, I did not want to be a motivational speaker, and I spent many years not talking about this. I mainly talked about this. But after a while, what started happening was I started reading enough comments, because I read all my comments, and I just started realizing so much of why people can't get there has to do with this, that I started talking about it more over the last 4 or 5 years. But I think they both matter. You could be the most optimistic, happy person up here, but if you don't put in the work, and if you don't know what work to put in, it's not gonna happen. Optimism is very close to delusion. However, I believe that optimism is the fuel to practicality, right? If you don't believe you're doing it for a reason or it's exciting, you're not gonna wanna put in the hours of the work. And so that's who I've always been. I've always been ambitious and happy. I was very fortunate. I had a tremendous mother who loved me very much, so I felt good. However, she did not create entitlement. When I lost or when I was doing bad, she told me. She didn't make a fake environment, which is a huge factor. And to be honest, my biggest concern about the last 20 years of parenting, too much fake environments, too much entitlement, which is why so many people struggle when they go into the real world, because the real world doesn't care. The real world is not your mama anymore. And so I think about those things. Fast forward, I was very very good at selling baseball cards when you're making $3,000 or $4,000 a weekend when you're 14 years old. You've got it. I was good, fine. But then my dad eventually bought a liquor store and he dragged me into the liquor store when I was 14. I started making $2 an hour, bagging ice. This was huge for me. If I didn't have that transition, all the money I was making as a young kid, it came so easy because I was naturally talented. I think not having that struggle of losing all that because my dad forced me to work in the store and making $20 a day, that really helped me. And I learned a lot in that liquor store. Most of all, what I learned was to watch people. Today, after this talk, I will go to the airport and on my flight, I will literally read most of the comments on Twitter, on Instagram, your DMs. I will read them and I'll read them to understand, was there anything I said in this hour that stood out, that didn't hit, that did hit? I learned that watching people and more importantly, understanding people and most importantly, being empathetic to people was the best way to build a real business, to build something meaningful. The biggest problem, I'll tell you right now, one of the biggest reasons most people in this room, if they decide to start an entrepreneurial venture, a side hustle, whether you try to sell something in your home on Facebook Marketplace, which, oh, by the way, I'm going to bring up later, my biggest belief that the quickest way for many people here to start is to sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, but I'll talk about that later. Whether it's that, whether you're finally ready to start your podcast on Spotify, whether you're going to build your Instagram profile or meme page because you want brand dollars, whatever you're up to in this room, the reality is that if you have to put in so much work, but so much of what comes out of people's mouth or what they post is selfish, not selfless. It's what you want. You want them to buy it. You want them to like your post. You want them to follow you. The biggest reason I have the luxury of standing here today is from the wine business to the content I made on YouTube when it first came out to everything I've done over the last 8 to 9 years in my books, in all my free content. I've always thought, how do I bring more value to you than I get in return? It's very simple. Karma or doing the right thing always works. The problem is most people are impatient. The reason most people are impatient, especially in cultures like mine, Eastern European, in cultures like here, there's too many people in here that are trying to get successful too fast because they want to prove it to their parents. And in that impatience is a very important point. My friends, the number one thing I fear, period, is that people live their lives based on other people's opinions. The number one thing that I have seen as I've gotten older that has been very obvious to me is that most of the people here today do many of the things they do because of 1 to 5 people's opinions in their lives, whether their parents, their spouse, their older sibling, their neighbor. Living your life predicated on the judgment of somebody else is the great weakness of the human being. The biggest reason, do you know how many people are here today just to get affirmation from me to go and do something? I mean it. And it's fascinating to me, and I'm empathetic. I understand, and I want to talk about it a lot, because no matter how I tell you how to leave 500 comments on Instagram posts, or what time to post your posts, or why you should start a Spotify podcast tomorrow, or how you actually list an item on Facebook Marketplace, no matter what I tell you, if you post the first day and the person that you're worried about has a bad opinion of it, it's already game over. And so I flew all the way here 24 hours to put pressure on what is the most obvious conversation, which is, are you prepared to finally get quiet in your head and not allow the opinions of others to dictate your behaviors? Every person here knows what they want to do.
Can we prime ourselves to feel good? Yes or no? What if you knew you would have a really important conversation with your kid or your spouse or your loved one, and you're starting to feel a little tension because you don't want to deal with this because you love them, you don't want to deal with the bullshit, but you know you got to? In this state of being primed about it, how's it gonna go? But if you primed yourself with laughter or joy or playfulness, and now you go to be with them, and somebody goes, no! And you go, that'll with them real quick, won't it? They don't want to deal with you enjoying yourself. So we are in charge. Here's the point. Life changes the moment you make the decision that you're 100% responsible for your experience of life. Not responsible like a heavy, response-able. If you're responsible, you're able to respond. You can only respond and be able to do that if you own yourself. And if you know people can do anything, but still you're the authority of what it means to you. You're the authority of your own emotions. You're the authority of your own actions. Who's with me on this? Say I. And blaming other people, which the human mind is always looking to do, will never make you happy, never make you fulfilled, never bring you closer to people, never make you grow. So when you're willing to take that level of responsibility where you're like making judgments and you go, oh, that person's such a bullshitter, such a liar. One of the things I always do is I do a reversal in my head and go, you're such a liar. No, I'm not. Where are you? Well, I did about that once. Who's ever said something and after you said it thought to yourself, what I just said was total. How many have ever thought this? How many have ever heard someone else say something and thought to yourself, what they just said is See, if you can see it in someone else, they can see it in you. Better to just own it and let go. Because that's what the mind does. If we let the mind run us, we're going to have a tough time. This mind serves me. I don't negotiate with it. Remember I told you? I don't say, well, I'll do this. Well, maybe we could do it. Maybe we'll jump in the water now. It's like, it knows I'm not here to negotiate. When I say it, we do it. That's what we want to train ourselves to do today. Who's up for that? Say I. So the first step to that would be priming. So let me show you exactly what I do for 10 minutes. By the way, my son, people around him enough, he laughs so much, he is a priming to other people when he shows up in the room. Because they're around Josh enough, and they know at any moment Josh could crack them up, and there's an unconscious anticipation of it. Does that make sense? So even if something's stressful, they're almost on their edge that Josh is going to do something of this nature. It's an incredible skill. It's an incredible gift. So here's how I prime myself. I do 3 things. First, before I do the 3 things, whenever you want to make a change or improve something, the first place you want to improve it is in your mental, emotional state. If you do something from a pissed off state, from an exhausted state, from a frustrated state, from a weak state, it won't matter what you do. The thoughts are weak when you're in a weak place. The actions are weak. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you a simple breathing pattern. And the breathing pattern, if you're familiar with yoga, it's like breath of fire. It's similar to breath of fire. And it's a movement. And what it's going to look like is this. You're going to sit up in your chair with energy. I'll show you what we'll do, and then we'll do it. We're going to raise our hands up as we take the air in, and then you're going to blow it up. Only you're going to blow it out your nose. Now to do that, what actually changes biochemistry and what will get you to wire and fire a new set of patterns that are more elegant, more rewarding, more impactful than the ones that society will condition you to do if you let it, okay? So 3 minutes, a minute each. And by the way, when I do it, I usually pick 2 strong ones, and then I pick something really simple and I make myself really feel the gratitude, like the wind on my face, or the smell of the ocean if I'm doing it outside by my house, or the look on one of my children's faces. And I'll just fill that up. And the reason is, if all you do is get grateful about big things, you're going to miss most of life. You know, the astronauts that went to the moon, think about that journey. Think about, as a child, these guys dreamed of being an astronaut. They competed with hundreds of thousands of people, and then a few of these guys get on that rocket and go to the moon. And imagine, you walk on the moon, you look back, and you see that picture we've all seen of the blue-green earth that's so beautiful, and it's not a photograph. They were the ones there seeing it. Talk about an experience. And then they face their fears and come in, and they land successfully in the ocean, and they're rescued. And then there's a ticker tape parade in New York. They shake the president's hand, and now what do? You're 32 years old, and you walked on the fucking moon! What do you do now for adventure? And if you study the astronauts, Buzz Aldrin, all these guys, I had a chance to interview most of them, not all, but 3 of them. Almost all of them wrote about, described what happened to them. They no longer had a compelling future. How do I have an adventure? I walked on the moon. Everything else is small by nature. And as a result, they got depressed. Most of them abused alcohol and drugs. Why? Because they're looking for adventure on a moon run, and they missed the adventure in a smile. So I train myself daily, prime myself to find those little things that are so beautiful and feel them. Because the more I feel them, the more I can give that to someone else. The more I can move that direction, the more I can enjoy as well. It's putting the mask on me first. Who's with me on this? Say I. Okay? So that's, after we do our breathing, step 1 of the 3 steps. First the breathing, then the 3 steps. 1, gratitude. 3 minutes roughly, a minute each. 3 different moments you can feel grateful for. And feel it, enjoy it, savor it, live in it. Next 3 in the 3rd minutes. Second piece we're going to do is you're going to feel the energy in you and do a prayer or a blessing. Now, I know many of you are not religious. I'm not suggesting you need to be. But almost all of us know there's a power in love. You know, if God was love and we didn't come up with all the other names for God, you wouldn't have much argument between people. So imagine that what you're going to do is imagine energy of God, the universe, whatever you want to imagine, coming down into you like a white light and breathing it down in through your body, down your legs, into the earth, and then coming back up and out again. So it's, and then comes back up. And you don't have to do this with your hands, but I'm trying to show you what the feeling is. And while you're doing this, what you're going to do during those 3 minutes is you're going to give thanks. It's like a prayer saying, heal my body, my mind, my emotions, strengthen me, make me the best I can be, strengthen my love, my passion, my courage, whatever it is that you value in yourself. And you feel that happening. Of the 3 minutes, I do that for about 1.5 minutes, and the other 1.5 minutes, I then take that energy through me, and I send it in a circle around to my children, to my family, to my friends, to my coworkers, to my associates, to my partners, to the people I meet on the street, to my clients. And so it's taking the energy in. Now, you might sound like woo-woo stuff, but the idea of allowing your nervous system to heal and strengthen, just the focus of that alone, for you is strong, and sending to others as well. So you can think it's all bullshit, but try it and decide based on the experience. If you do it a while, I think you're going to find it'll deepen that sense of gratitude, because it becomes not only gratitude, but a healing, a strengthening, and a gift to those you love. The last 3 minutes, I call 3 to thrive. You're going to think of 3 things that you really want to accomplish or achieve, but instead of like hoping it happens or thinking about it happening, you're going to step in your mind and experience it as if it's done. You're going to see it or feel it, breathe it, celebrate it like you've already achieved the goal. What you're doing is training your reticular activating system. Remember we talked about this the other day, the part of your brain that notices things. When you did, before you bought that car or outfit, you never noticed them. Now you buy that car outfit, those cars and outfits are everywhere. How come? Because your RAS, now that you own one, says this is important. I need to pay attention to this. Well, when you get clear what you want and you see it as done and feel it and create it in your mind and your heart and you celebrate it, there's a sense of certainty that enters your body and your reticular activating system starts to go to work on making it happen.
I get to speak. I get to speak all over the world, and it's always an honor and a privilege. And I always tell people, Saban has even brought me down to Alabama a few times, and I told him he's putting my VFL card in jeopardy, right? But it's nothing like being back in Tennessee. The love is different, the energy is different, and it's special, and it's always a privilege and an honor. And so before I get started, I want to make sure I express my gratitude to Pastor Davis and his wife. Thank you all so much for thinking enough of me and providing me with this opportunity. I want to thank Jason. I want to thank Chris. We rode down from the airport together, for them taking their time to come and get me. Also to the Sparta campus. It's a pleasure to be with you guys as well. And as I was standing back in the little alleyway here and I was watching that video, man, that video was awesome, right? And I was watching it and I'm like, man, I thank God that's not the other video that ESPN did, right? Because ESPN did a video and it was pretty cool, right? And I'll never forget, I was home one day in Atlanta with my wife and our 2 children, and we got an 8 and a 9-year-old, 11 months apart, Irish twins, give us a run for our money every day of the week. And I was hanging out and the producer called about the film. And so when I picked up, he said, "Hey, Ink, what are you up to?" I said, "Man, just hanging out, getting a little family time." He said, "I need you to take a seat. I got some news I want to share with you." I sat down. I said, "What you got?" He said, "Do you remember the film we did?" I said, "Of course, man, forever indebted to you guys for it." He said, "Well, it's nominated for an Emmy." I said, "Man, that's pretty cool." I said, "Give me a second. I want to go in the kitchen. I want to share this with my wife." And so me and my wife, we've been at it since 5th grade, puppy love, the whole 9. So I go in the kitchen and I say to my wife, I said, "Babe, you're not going to believe it. The film with ESPN is nominated for an Emmy." And my wife was like, "Whatever." And I was like, "No love?" Right? And she was like, "I don't care about sports." Right? And so I'm super competitive. And so I walk back into the other room with my kids and I say to the producer, "Man, who are we up against?" Right? "I want to win this. I want to bring it back home to my wife, even though she doesn't care." Right? To my mother, my grandma, like, I want to win this. And the first name he says was, "Ink, there's a film about Muhammad Ali." I said, "We lost." I said, "We lost," right? And we ended up losing, but I got nominated, so it's all good, right? Yeah.